What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Floyd, Money Mayweather, Canelo Alverz, Anthony Joshua, and Lennox Lewis. You know, I was thinking just a few seconds ago, and I decided to do a video, go figure. And I look at Floyd and I look at the way he talks about Canelo, and I wonder, you know, based on the history those two had, Floyd was victorious when Canelo was younger, and he continued to be the cash cow up until the point he retired. Now he's been retired about 6 years now, since 15, so that's 6 years going on 7. And you hear all these negative things like, hey, I beat Canelo easy. Canelo easy work. Don't support Canelo. Canelo is not for you. Telling other fighters what to do with the current guy that's pound for pound. You know, and I thought about it, and I thought, like, who could I compare that to? Like, who? And it hit me. It's like, because a lot of people ask me, what do you have against Floyd? I don't have anything against Floyd. The question you ask yourself is, what does Floyd have against Canelo Alverz? Right? So I thought, I'm like, okay, so who did I blast for having a similar attitude or spirit? And that was Lennox Lewis towards AJ. Because, you know, Lennox Lewis was like, hey, you know, I think AJ is protected. He needs to come out of Europe or UK, you know, stop fighting, you know, being a big fish in a small pond. You need to come to the USA, this, that, and the other. You know, you should give Deontay Wilder a split. You're running, you're avoiding, you're ducking, you're lowballing, you're this, you're that, you're all of that, right? And I got him. I counterpunched him. Everybody knows that. Lennox Lewis to this day hates me for it, or dislikes me for it, very much so. And I thought about the comparison between Lennox, Mayweather, you know, and I thought, like, okay, what if Lennox Lewis beat Anthony Joshua early in his career, of course, and then still kept with the criticism like he's done. And Anthony Joshua has went on to become one of the best heavyweights, and he hasn't lost since then, like Canelo. Close calls, whatever. But he hasn't lost officially since the Lennox Lewis defeat, because Lennox Lewis was that great. Lennox Lewis was that guy that taught him so much for being in the ring with him. And Lennox Lewis still had something to say about him. And you know something? I don't think Lennox Lewis would even do that. I think Lennox Lewis would be satisfied with the fact of knowing, like, hey, I can beat this guy. This guy is more successful than I was in the UK. I might be a little jelly, but I won't be ramming down his throat or other people's throat that I beat him once upon a time. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking to myself, like, what gives? And, you know, the bombshell dropped today about Floyd and Canelo and Al Heyman and the truth about the PBC and, you know, all that, because Floyd, okay, it's been leaked that Floyd and Al Heyman are business partners, and they're together, but Al Heyman calls all the shots, as you guys know, or you heard, or, you know, from the channel, hearing the intel. And he had to fork over $50 million to Canelo Alverz, you know, and then the money that he thinks he's going to get back, he doesn't. And Al Heyman is using his money as like a bank loan, right, in hopes of making him more money, but really he's not getting his return on the money, you know. And now it all makes sense. You're messing with Floyd Mayweather's money, money. Right? So you can see the malice in that, the frustration in that, you know, because I was just trying to rack my brain, like, okay, well, who has that? And I'm thinking to myself, Lennox Lewis, because Lennox Lewis, we know he did a lot of hating on AJ, but I don't even think he would go to that degree. You know what I mean? I don't think that he would go that way. You know, I think that something would have been discussed as far as him and a promotional company and them trying to either sign AJ or whatever. Because you know Lennox Lewis tried to sign AJ once upon a time, and that didn't go well, okay? Well, Floyd and Al Heyman, you know, they supposed to be as one, like Jesus Christ and God or something like that, right? And the Holy Trinity, right? You know what I mean? Holy Ghost. But at the end of the day, it's just one guy getting money from the guy that has money, that he knows that has the money, so he can pay paychecks and cipher out money to fighters that are not fully getting paid. And I think, to close, I think Floyd should just really direct who he's mad at. You know, like, look, I know he spent years praising Al Heyman and all this, but like, don't shit on Canelo because you had to pay this man, versus that man that you're dealing with, Al Heyman, not being able to pay you like you thought he was. But then when a big fish like Canelo comes around, you know you have to pay him, because if you didn't pay Canelo, Canelo would crush you. For one, he would destroy your name in Mayweather and the PBC and all those for doing business with someone that can't pay. But in two, he would publicly destroy you, because he's like, okay, you plan to be this money guy and you guys couldn't even pay me. You know, that does a lot to Mayweather's fortune legacy. See, Floyd picked fortune over fame. Okay, so if you take away the fortune, the only thing he has is what? You know, he was once famous, but like, you don't become unfamous, you become infamous. So that's not really a good thing. Okay, so they knew they had to pay the man, and I think this is why he's coming at Canelo, because he really doesn't want to target the person he really should be mad at, and that's Al Heyman. But there may be a time around the horizon. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of this video. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!